What's up, guys? We're gonna take a minute and start taking down the rest of the barn find Maxim 750. It's a sad day, but we're gonna have to do it anyway because we sold the tank, we sold the starter. We got to get this out of the weather and get the parts inside and listed and safe from rain and all. Might have a buyer for calipers, and we're gonna take the front brakes off, take the headlight, the extra light, and gauges. End of an era, guys. Pull her all down. So far we have some Phillips screws, one below right there and over here. Pull your headlight out. This has an LED headlight in it, just so you know. Gonna have to pull that out of the wiring harness, don't want to mess it up. And then we have a 12 here, and that loosens up our bucket. Our bucket should come out now. Yep, okay, so I don't want to drop anything, but all these wires can be disconnected and pulled out of the bucket. Pop this off and we'll continue. All right, well, these were 10 millimeters, by the way. I said 12, I believe. And then here's our LED light. We have an LED headlight in there. And then I put the bucket back on. We'll sell it as a set, so anybody needs that. Then we have this guy, and he's not looking the best, but in perfect shape other than the plastic chrome stuff. And we have the screws, so that comes off. We have the headlight between 10 millimeter and a few other things here. A little bit of a Phillips head screw. We can pretty much pull all of this apart. Here's all the wires coming out of the instrument cluster, and we'll pull that off. There's a 10 millimeter here, which I already got off, and 10 millimeter right here. I think I can get off now. Okay, we're pulling the brakes off. We're gonna pull this off. It's a 14. Just gonna take these and loosen up the brackets, and then the joint here, the crossover tube is all disconnected. And then up here, we could take it off here. This is not working anymore, so it's kind of good that we're not doing that anymore. This has probably failed. And these suckers come off. They're 10s, it looks like. And we'll have the whole front brake off in just about 2 minutes. All right, so there's a 10 millimeter bolt right there. We got that out. That got the headlight stay out. We can clean this up with some steel wool quick. That slipped off. So you get that loose, and then you can slide this out from its points. I think the other one's around here because that's very clean. It obviously was there. This one popped off and I saw it rolling away. The other one is probably sitting somewhere. I did not notice that it got stuck up in there. They come from right in there and I don't feel it, so it's in there somewhere. Then I believe we have 10 millimeter bolts to get the ignition off, and brakes are off. You can see we have 2 calipers. I thought I rebuilt these, but apparently not. And then yeah, all that's off. I fished it out, and it looks like we have another stay right here, and he still has the toppers there. That looks like the same bike. So obviously we've torn them down before. We'll keep going, and I'll find that rubber thing. There it is, right back there. So stay is complete. When you're pulling your wires off the handlebars, there is a guard here that keeps everything in place. You should have a screw here and a screw here. Just take your screwdriver and free them up. That's pretty loose. Surprised I even still have a screw there. Maybe I actually pulled these off at one point. Yeah, just drop it on the ground. And then as you can see, there are your wires neatly tucked behind this little bracket. There you go. And you can pull those out. Everything's free, and I would put the bracket back on and the screws so you don't lose them. If you want to take these reflectors off, they're pretty easy. You just grab your screwdriver, and this goes through the reflector itself. and then the housing. And you loosen both of those up. Make sure you don't strip them, because then you're not going to get it off very easily. And just turn these two suckers. Yeah, these aren't lights, so you're not looking for any light bulbs or anything. But these do go through to the frame, if I remember correctly. And you're going to take off. See, it's all coming apart. We got a frame, a reflector, and this black mount piece that just kind of sits there. So you're down to the frame. So that sucker's all off, and that one actually looks pretty nice. The one on the other side is the same way, but that one's not so nice. Oh well. All right, just grabbed, well, these pads come right off. Just slide them off. Those are for the gas tank. So you collect a lot of those as you're tearing bikes down. These are the bolts that hold the ignition coils in. One nut on the opposite side, bolt pulls through, then your ignition coil is free. And now at this point, you unplug it from the wiring harness, just like that. And then you have two options. You can pull them off down here and just take them off of the spark plugs and then run the wires up through. It's probably one of them, not the other. Or you can just remove them from here. Same thing on this side. You pull it free, remove it from the wiring harness, and then you can pop them off of your spark plugs. Now everything's free, and you can pull them right through. Look how bad these needed new wires, new plugs. Well, maybe not wires, or maybe not plugs. Wires are fine. So there you go. Come on, buddy. You're all tricky there. Okay, there's your ignition coils. All right, what next? What next? We have wiring coming up here. We can remove that. Just push those in. Pop that sucker off. There we go. Get that out of the way. That goes up here. Then this is a wire for our high beam fog light guy. And then this is actually added. This was our starter button. Starter button was wired in directly right there. That was somebody's solution, and it actually worked. Here's this stuff over here. All this still works. Horn, turn signal, and high low beam. What can we do next? We can start just moving stuff out of the way. Little relays down here. You can pull those straight off the frame as we go. Keep them in their little holders here. Usually they're not being held on too strong. Sometimes you do need two hands though. The metal tabs can bend out of the way pretty quick too if you want them to. You can break them off if you need to move stuff around. This guy, he bends up there pretty quick if you want to do that. All right, next, you probably get this guy off pretty easily. Ignition coil, or igniter. Yeah, it says it right there. That's your computer. Tells your spark plugs when to fire, all that good stuff. And there's your regulator rectifier. Usually sell those together, or if somebody wants to buy just that, I don't know, they go for, depends what bike it is, they can go anywhere from 50, 60 bucks all the way up through to like 200 some. Depends what bike it is. But if you want to unhook those, it's pretty simple too. It just pulls right out like that, and then this sits on a plastic sucker there that probably is in with the screw down there. Here's our regulator rectifier wiring. I think that has a tab you need to push. I don't think that just comes free. If it does, it will. Nope, there's a tab on it. on the bottom here. Push that down and she pulls off. And then we can take this whole thing off once we undo this screw that I think has a ground wire on it. Or maybe it's this screw. Yeah, it's this screw down here. And then this whole thing can come off. Look at that. You want to take off the right controls here? Pull the 2 screws in the back. This is actually pretty easy. That lets loose your throttle cable and your single pull, push-pull throttle cable. That's pretty easy. You just slide that out through the throttle tube here and you're free. Wow, that's real simple. Now this guy, he can just slide right off there. This can just fall off the front if that's what you want to do. See, there's the new starter button that was wired in. Somebody was in there for sure. I guess that's the old starter button that they capped off just so the current kept going through. And there's that. And then here's your throttle tube and your grip. Eek. And what else do I need to show you? I'll keep removing screws and stuff here. Still need to remove a screw here to free the airbox. You're not getting the airbox out unless you cut the frame, which we could, but that's got to go that way once the engine is moved and the carbs are out of there. So we could start tearing down the rear. Let's take some steel wool to the shocks before we release those. I cut this thing down a little bit more. There was a 10mm bolt holding the airbox in. Now we can't rescue that. Ooh, that's cracked. Oh, that's not great. But if somebody needs it, they can fix it. I'll get it back in line anyway at some point. There we go. Okay, well, there's a crack. Sad. I've sold these cracked before. All right, so wiring, just start unplugging stuff. You're gonna have wires going down the engine, the alternator, and you can cut this if you're not keeping the frame. Otherwise, you're gonna have to fish it out from under there, and that's really hard to do when all this bracket's in the way and the airbox is in the way. So I guess the next thing we should do is pull out the carbs. Airboxes typically don't fit very well through here without the engine moved, so we'll see. We need to pull the exhaust, which is no longer attached back here. I bet you I could loosen up the mounting points here and probably wiggle these out. Actually, it's pretty loose now, so I might be able to get the mufflers off pretty easily. Both sides are going to be different. Yeah, see the mounting point down there? It's already moving. If I do enough wiggling, I could potentially pull this right off. There it goes. There's our muffler for the left side. And clean that up a little bit, and we can list that. And we'll have to go in on the other side. There you go. It's pretty shiny. And then maybe we'll try to wiggle this one off quick. Yep, that's just as loose. I don't remember having any major... Yeah, there we go. Didn't have any exhaust leak. So, there's the other side. So should we sell them separately, sell them together? I'm not sure. I'll have to see what eBay buyers are jumping on, but here's that. Now, I think we have a collector under there and the headers. Now that this is open, I have been covering it, but you know how that goes. We should just pull the headers off, and I doubt there's any more mounting points below. Probably all. Well, it seems pretty solid. There might be a screw that I have to find there. So I'll keep digging. 10mm here. And let's see how they're coming loose. Good. One. Oh, tire's in the way. Come on, wheel. Get out of there. Now, not just the tire, also this frame. Ugh. All right, got it anyway. Be careful. Make sure you don't strip anything. And now the wheel's in the way for that one. I'm not going to show you how to take the engine out because I've done a video on that before. And the way I do it. So soon, get out of there. Soon we'll be down to just a few things yet. And this bike will be done. Yep, we got one bolt down underneath here on the collector. It's a 14 millimeter. And I'm gonna try to get it off with impact. I don't think it's gonna work, but there it is. Got the 10 mils off the headers. So once I take this bolt out, everything's just gonna fall right off. Guys, grab your 12 millimeter socket. 14 also. I just got the bolts out of here. I was gonna list all this together, but I think I just sold a set of these guys, the collars here, for almost 50 bucks. So I'm gonna pull all 4 of those off. But to do that, I'm gonna have to get the headers popped off of there. So we're gonna try and get the headers off there. We'll sell the headers separate, sell the collector separate, sell those little collars separate. So got those off at the 12. You come down here, these look like 14s and 12s. What do we got? Oh man, it's breezy and cold today. I am not loving that. What do we got? Nope, that's 12. There's a 14. So we're gonna start taking this engine bolt stuff apart. And that way we can move the engine around. Yeah, it's probably a 14 and these are 12s. So we can free up the carbs. You could pull them out as you would if you were just changing the carburetors or cleaning them out. But in this case, we can move the engine because we don't need it in there anymore. I think that's all we really have to do. Those and those, and there's some that go through down there. So we'll locate them. I think that might be a 17 down there. We'll show you when we get there. This pops off with just a screwdriver or a strong fingernail. There's a little notch down here. It's probably easier to get under there, but I'll grab a screwdriver to pop that off. This one, oh, I should have got that off when I was taking off the other side. So that's all gone. The wiring's ready to come out. I could just cut this out if I wanted to. I was thinking about it, but let's get this engine moved around. I got the foot peg and the shifter out of the way. We're gonna take the little, I think that's a 10. What do I got in hand? 10. We're gonna take that off. Just take that bolt out and you can wiggle it off of this spline. That goes into your engine. So that'll be easy enough to get off. And then I found the back mounting bolt. It's a 17. Already got my socket for that. Put that on and go ahead and loosen up the engine at this point. Sorry, I'll do that off camera. It's too loud for you. I apologize. That was mean. Here, let's take 10 off. There we go. That's nice and quiet. Now, everything's been coming off this bike real easy. You want to keep this bolt with it. And you might need to grab a screwdriver to kind of push from the back to get this off. See, it's already started to come off. Just got to wiggle it left, right, up, down a little bit. Get a screwdriver behind there. Kind of pry it out. Like I said, I want to keep this screw with it. And then we got that. Oh, the bolt right here that was holding this on. It's an 8mm hex. And there it is. Used an Allen key for that. So keep that with it too. That'll bring more money in resale for some people. And over here, I already showed you this. Yeah, I need a screwdriver. Same thing on the opposite side. That's gonna loosen up the pivot joint bolt. Can't see with all the wiring in the way. So I'm gonna keep at it. Got that nut off. Now you wanna lift up on the engine a little bit because all the weight is on the bolt here. And then you can push it straight through. And you might need something here to do it, or you might need something to grab from the other side. And then all your bolts are out, and that's a little premature here. Here is your kickstand switch, 2 screws and then disconnect it from the wiring if it's not already done. I think it's still connected to something here. Nope. This should be it right here, but it goes through a little bracket down here, so you have to fish it down through there. Yeah, I take this bolt out. All right, well, I loosened all these brackets and I pried the airbox off of the carbs. So now it's just basically gonna be lifting the carburetor up and out of these boots here and getting this free. These do, I mean, they're hard right now, it's cold, but they do flex, and we could get that out of the way. But right now, let's try to wiggle this out. I already disconnected the, what's that, choke cable, I guess? Yeah, disconnected the choke cable, loosen that bolt, it holds it in there, and then it runs into there. And then we have the throttle cable, which is still attached, which I could probably easily pull it up. Yep, pull it up, slide it through there, and then drop it down out of the slot down here. Do that with one hand, just about. There it goes, throttle cable free. Now, let's get these carbs out. Carefully wedged it out of the front boots, went down first, got them free, and then pulled them up through. I did reseat it back into those, so I had to pull it up from here, and now I'll just work on getting it one way or the other, whichever way it wants to go. I think it's that way. So we'll just work on lifting it out of here. The airbox not being tied down isn't helping because it moves with the carbs. All right, I got the little plate of the throttle, no, the clutch out, so that got out of the way. So I was able to push this airbox up and past there. And yes, as we looked before, it is broken. So we're gonna list this as it is, and someone can make use of it. I do have everything else to get it right. I have a new filter and the lid, so we'll have to put that back, mate that back up with itself. There's another set of carbs for this bike. So if anybody needs carbs off the XJ750 Maxim, we got them. I think the last thing for tonight, I'm gonna take the handlebars off. Got everything disconnected. I was trying to get this grip off, but I'm just gonna leave it on and let this float. Kind of stripped it down. Got the cable out of here. What you have to do, align your lock nut and your lock nut here and this lock. Make everything line up with the slot, and then you go in here and you take your throttle cable and nurse it out of there. Not a problem, pretty easy. Now we have a 6mm hex on this lock nut here, and we're going to probably sell this whole thing together. Just let it loosen it up, and then again we'll wedge a screwdriver down there and get that moving. Loosen it up, and then we'll shimmy it up off of here. It's pretty loose. I forget if you have to take these completely off or not. I don't think you do, but looks like you might. Yeah, it looks like you might, because I think there's a little track in those guys that even this, if this came loose, it wouldn't come off. So let's do that quick and look at it. See if I can do it. Oh, pretty easy. Yep, there's a little track there, so you have to take it completely out. Now we'll put it back in so that we can get a picture of it. With the airbox out and the carbs out, the wiring harness came out. It's a decent wiring harness. It works anyway. Somebody rewired the fuse box right there, so we'll take pictures of that and list it up. It works as far as I know. And then here we are. That's where the starter was. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. We do have to remove the oil filter and drain the oil before we drop this out of the engine, or out of the frame. I keep teasing you about popping these guys off. That's all it is. And then that's our rear swing arm bolts. And there is fluid in the rear hub also that you have to worry about. So I think what we're gonna do is let this sit for the day, and we'll drain the oil tomorrow and move the filter, and then we can dump this engine out of here. She's getting down to it. Someone wanted the front end. They're actually pretty solid. They're not leaking. The dust boots are a little dry, but otherwise it's in good shape. Tires are good. I did put this wheel on the back. That's a 650 wheel. Same thing, so that fit right up. And then we'll have the shocks to sell, and basically the frame can go to scrap. Guys, super windy, but if you want to get your pivot bolts out here, there's a little tab on this metal frame here. And then I have a 28 millimeter. I didn't bother looking for another one, but with my impact, I was able to torque that guy out. So you see, that gets locked over the bolt to keep it from moving. I think that one can be locked over too, but it wasn't. So there's that. On the other side, there's a nut, and I ran that out also with the 28. And then over here, you're gonna take a hex. Ooh, right here. You're gonna take a hex and turn that out with a hex. And then your rear will be free, and that'll make it easier to get the engine out, because we don't have to bother with, you just pull that backwards. We have to take off the shocks before the whole rear end would fall out, but they're supporting that now, but they won't be in a minute. If we take these off, then we can pop the shocks off and take off the rear. I think we have a 6 on the Allen key Spectrum here, and let's see if we can put that on and remove that bolt. Yep, it is turning pretty easily. It's got that brake lever in the way, the rear brake lever. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but once this comes off, once it comes out, that rear brake pivot will be free and not held in on either side. There we go. Now we're clear of that. And 3, 2, 1. Boom. Done. Now that's out. 14 on all of these, except for this one. This bolt is a 12, I think. I just dropped my pivot bolt. That's a 12 for some reason. I forgot we need to disconnect the brakes. You can either do it there, spin that nut off the back, and disconnect the arm, or you can do it right here. Spin that nut off, loosen it up, and you can pop that off. And then we have this bracket down here that holds it all in place. You can disconnect it here. There's a cotter pin in there you gotta pull off. And then I think we have a 10 millimeter on there to drive it off the rest of the way. Do that, and then your rear wheel will come off. There it is. That's it. Those both bolts on the other side with the brakes were 12 millimeters. So this is out, and it isn't disconnected. So hopefully we don't lose any fluid out from the splines. Now, it might actually lose some fluid if this sits like that for too long. It might run down there. I'm not sure. That SAE 80. So rear's off, and we don't have much left to go. The shocks would come off at this point. There we go. And I would keep the bolts on there, but we're trashing the frame unless anybody needs it. This bolt was a 12. That's right, we didn't open that one up. So anyway, rear's done, and now this won't be a problem when we try to get the engine out. And actually, that knuckle in there, that's so it can pivot and go up and down as it runs. I think that comes right off, does it? I don't remember. No, that's connected pretty good to the transmission. Okay, so that's it for the rear. What's up, guys? Continuing with our project today. Really, we only have the engine yet. Engine and the front end. So these covers can lift right off, but we don't really have to remove those until we want to actually sell parts. So maybe we'll sell the whole top of the triple tree together. Maybe we'll keep it together. We have probably a 5mm pinch bolt here to loosen that up. Then we got to take off this guy, and then these are pinched to the forks. So to get all this off, we need to loosen up. Looks like these are all the same. These guys on both sides, and then we got to take off this top nut, and then the top triple tree clamp will come off. And these are nice, not missing. And then basically this front end will fall out and this thing will fall over. So I decided I don't really want to take the oil out of this engine, but if we want to get out of the frame, we have to. And the only other option is to cut the frame, which we could do. But really, I wonder if I could slide it out the back. I don't think this is going to clear. So I might be able to make it work. We'll see. But at this point, we want to get the center stand and the side stands off too. So I can't take the center stand off while it's... Well, I could lean it over. Could lay it over on a blanket as to not scratch anything. And then all the front stuff will come off, no problem. So let's get these loosened up. Take that off. Pop that off. I can pull this off without worrying about it falling over because this is just resting. The frame will continue resting on the lower clamps, and then we'll have to lean it over to get the front end off anyway. So getting there, almost done. All right, top nut with the 22, and then we had 6mm hex. Now I gotta turn this, and then there'll be ball bearings under there, and this will fall out. So we're just gonna lay this over on a soft substance dog bed, and we're down. All right, so the engine might fall out. Cool. And then we just turn these out, and I'll show you the ball bearings. Got everything off the top. There's all our ball bearings that came out of the top, and now we'll just slide this out of the bottom. There will be the same amount of ball bearings, should be, in the bottom. There's another front end. Here's all our ball bearings. Some already came out. I'll collect these up just so they're not floating around the ground. And that's it. We're not putting this back together, so no big deal. And then as far as the other stuff, we obviously have the engine to come out. There's something that can be removed. And then here, I think we have some 14mm bolts for the center stand. Usually a 14mm or 17mm for the side stand. And then we're pretty much done. This sucker pops through. I think I could probably, there's some springs attached. Just be careful with that. But usually this just pops through. There it is. So just a couple little things yet. She's basically torn down. Once we get the engine out, see, it's holding on by, that's pretty much it. We're totally done. Like I said, if you want to get this engine out easily, drain the oil and pop this filter off, then you can get it to get past the frame. Otherwise, you're gonna figure it out. I don't know. Good luck with that. I'll see you guys on the next one.